All right. I am Kara Tucker with the Kenton County Public Library, and today is Tuesday, July 31st, 2018. I will be interviewing Robert Galliccio at Atria Highland Crossing in Fort Wright, Kentucky. The other person attending the interview is our videographer, Mike Bloom, also of the Kenton County Public Library. This interview is being conducted for the Kenton County Public Library's Veterans History Project in conjunction with the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project. Good afternoon, Mr. Galliccio.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your full name?
Robert Joseph Galliccio.
And what's your birth date?
Robert.
Your birth.
Call me Bob for short.
Bob, got it. What's your birth date, Bob?
Ma'am?
What's your birth date?
March the 7th, 1921.
And what was your branch of service and your highest rank?
I was a gunner that made first class, United States Navy.
And what were your dates of service?
Ma'am?
What were your dates of service?
1941 to 1946, 5 years to the day.
Oh, yeah. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about before you went into the service. We're going to start so early that where were you born?
Where was I born?
Yeah.
Newport, Kentucky.
And what were your parents' names?
811 Monroe Street. The house is still there.
Oh, is it? On Monroe? Nice.
Yeah.
What were your parents' names?
Ma'am?
What were your parents' names?
First,
Your parents, what were their names?
my name?
Your parents' names?
Oh.
Mom and Dad?
Michael Galliccio was my father.
Okay.
Magdalene was my mother, Magdalene Galliccio. Magdalene Wilmus.
That was her maiden name? All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
What did they do for a living?
Ma'am,
What did they do for a living? What were their jobs?
what was my job?
Your parents.
My father was an immigrant. He was worked for the Italian government. They raised horses for the government.
Really? When did he immigrate?
Ma'am?
When did he immigrate? That's interesting.
Michael,
Yeah, when did Michael come to America?
when?
Mm-hmm.
My father came over here right before 1918. He fought in World War I. This is how my father got his citizenships. They give him alternatives down there that they could get their citizenship papers earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So joined the army. He joined the army, and he went to France. Yep.
Wow, so
Stayed for about 2 years.
that's interesting. Do you have any siblings?
I have 5 children.
Do you have any brothers and sisters, though?
I have 1 sister living. Yeah.
So you come from an Italian family, then, you said earlier?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Did you, was your family, did you do a lot of Italian traditions growing up, or how was the food?
Well, I'll tell you, it's kind of rough.
Rough how so?
Ma'am?
Rough how so? What do you mean? Can you explain? You said it was rough. What do you mean by rough?
My father?
Mm-hmm.
Well, just like I say, they raised horses for the government. He came to America here. He was a shoe cobbler, shoe repairman. Worked in a shoe factory. That's how he met my mother. My mother and dad met in the shoe factory in Cincinnati, Ohio.
All right.
Yeah.
So when you lived on Monroe Street, you said, did you go to school, or where did you go to school?
Did I go to school?
Yeah, and where?
I'm sorry to say I'm not very well educated. I have about a year equivalency. 1 year high school. I got all my education in the Navy.
Did you work when you were in school, or did you pretty much go from school straight in?
I went to work when I was 13 years old.
Where did you work?
I worked for the Wasser and Wismar Gas and Oil Company, 10th and Saratoga Street in Newport, Kentucky. Then I went to work for the B.F. Goodrich Tire and Rubber Company. So 1941, when the war broke out, I joined the Navy.
So you went straight from working right into the Navy?
Ma'am?
You went straight from working right into the military?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
No, I enlisted.
You enlisted?
I enlisted, yeah.
What made you pick the Navy?
I wanted to go in the Navy down there before the war. My father, since he was a veteran down, he wouldn't sign for me. So I didn't go, but I wasn't able to go because he said, no, he said, you stay home with me. At that time down there, things were pretty rough. My dad was just as an immigrant and went through the 29 Depression.
Mm-hmm.
Things were tough. And I'll tell you, we had a rough time existing. No kidding. It was really bad.
So did it almost seem like an opportunity to join the military, to do something different and get out of there?
When the war broke out, I was gone the next day.
Wow.
Yeah. I was in Pearl Harbor right after they bombed it.
Really? Where did you do your basic training?
Norfolk, Virginia.
What was that like?
Ma'am,
What was that like?
what was it like?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you, for one thing, it was bad being away from home, because I spent New Year's Eve in basic training. I was only in boot camp for 3 weeks. Was sent right to sea. So I had 4.5 years continuous sea duty.
With the training going by so fast, do you have any instructors that you remember or anything stick out about having to do all the training that you recall?
Ma'am?
Is there anything about the training that you remember really well or that stuck out?
There's one specific thing that I do remember, and I remember quite well.
Okay.
We were always on the run. So the story goes, we were eating the morning meal, breakfast. We came out from the mess hall. Those two we lined up. Chief Petty Officer would pull an inspection.
Uh-oh.
I remember quite vividly. He pulled the inspection down there. At that time, we was wearing our peacoats all tied up, buttoned up to the neck.
Mm-hmm.
So he was pulling a clothing inspection. So the fellow was alongside of me, kind of a quiet type fellow, you know. So the chief looked at him and he stopped, you know, he looked at him and he says, you got spots on the front of your peacoat.
Ooh.
So chief stopped, looked around, looked at this guy again. He said, you know what? I'm looking to see if there's any seagulls flying around up there. He thought it was seagull. Seagull. He said, I don't see no seagulls. What is that? So the guy said, well, he says, I'm sorry. I was in a hurry eating my breakfast. As rolled out. The chief said, get back there. He said, get your... He slobbered all over the front of him. That I still see the... rolled out. He said, well, I know it's not seagull dirt. He says, clean up your peacoat. You know, down he went. You inspect the guys all the way down the line. It was run, and run. So then another time we was routed out about 5 o'clock in the morning. So we was running, it was dark in the devil, didn't know where we were at. So I had fallen.
Ooh.
And the rest of the guys that was running ahead of me, and I was laying in the back of the hole. So the next day they told me, they said, when you fell? I said, yeah, I remember when I fell. They said, you know what you fell in? I said, no. We were running on a golf course, and I fell into a sand trap. There I was trying to get up the hill, you know what I mean? It was quite a good experience. 3 weeks I was in boot camp.
Did they call the other guy Seagull after that?
Ma'am?
Did they call the other guy Seagull after that?
Well, no, they didn't call him Seagull, but I know he was on battleship with me. He was just a funny type of guy, you know what I mean? But that's just the way it went. Every run, and she's got to run and run some more.
Did you feel like they were getting you ready for war?
That's what he said.
Did you feel like they were getting you ready for war?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. We got to learn quite a bit in 3 weeks' time, I'll tell you that. That's the truth. Navy was very, very specific on different things. Mm-hmm. Run you through a gas chamber, all stuff like that. Wow. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, you said the guy who had the seagull problem, he ended up on a ship with you? Did you end up?
He wound up on the battleship with me. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Were there others from your training that were there as well, or were you guys split up?
Well, when I asked down there, the question down there, how come you're going to sea so fast? Mm-hmm. They said, well, you're going to get the rest of your basic training the good way. So the guys that was in that same platoon I was in wound up on the battleship.
Okay.
Yeah. So we wasn't aboard that very long in Honolulu. We went to Honolulu, and from Honolulu we went to Pearl Harbor.
Do you remember how long it took to get all the way out there, or
Ma'am?
do you remember how long it took? Did you leave from North Carolina and travel all the way through?
How long?
On the boat to get to Honolulu.
I don't quite remember. It was a little hard to remember how many days that it took, because we patrolled a little bit. We wound up going there, and I can't even remember where we. I think we went to the after we left Pearl Harbor. We left and went to invasion of North Africa.
So you saw just about every sea there is, it sounds like.
Ma'am?
You saw just about every ocean there is.
I was on a total of about six different ships, aircraft carriers, landing ship.
So, on the day-to-day, what kind of things did you usually have to do as far as what was your rank by the time you finished training?
What would I have to do?
Yeah, and what was your rank once you were done training?
Guns.
Okay.
Gun.
Did you have to maintain them? Did you have to shoot them? What did you have to do with them?
Well, I was a trainer on a big 12-inch gun, 12-inch battery.
Okay.
So I went from there to anti-aircraft.
Wow.
20 millimeters, 40 millimeters.
So is that special training you had to receive in order to do that?
Got a lot of training right at sea. You know, a lot of shooting.
Did it take a while to get used to being on the boat, or did you get right into it easily?
It's an altogether different way of life, I can tell you that. Yeah.
Can you tell me more about how different it is as far as living on a boat goes versus even in your barracks and training?
The guns? I was a trainer. I do remember one incident that was at night. So they gave a bearing. They picked up a ship. They told me to start up the motors and start training the turret. So they trained the turret. They says, now, but you have to be careful. The turrets were staggered. So turret 2 was up here, so when we would train out, they were elevating, depressing their guns. What you don't want to do is train out when they're elevating, pressing the guns, because if you do, you're gonna wind up locking horns, they call it, and snap the barrel, snap the barrel off the gun.
Oh, wow.
So, from there I went to the, shell deck, powder deck.
What are those? I don't know what those mean. Can you tell me what those are?
Ma'am,
What do those mean? I'm not sure what that means.
how does it feel?
Okay.
Look, I know one thing, when you got down there, you didn't have to worry too much about getting out because they battened down the hatches. There was only one way out. That was out through an escape hatch up in the #1 turret.
How often was it like that? Did you have to batten down the hatches a lot? Or was it always like that?
Was it always like that? No, only when you went to battle station.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
About how often would that happen? Was that something that once
Well,
a
it
week
all-
or?
You know, it all depends what area you were in, what you were looking for. So when they had the invasion of North Africa, the German ships were looking for us. So we were actually out there patrolling for a pocket battleship that was a German battleship. We were lucky that we didn't make any contact with it, kept patrolling, trying to, find it. Because a German pocket battleship down there could fire down there, man, they could out. The ship I was on was kind of old, and it could outmaneuvers and outshoot. They could shoot buku miles, you know what I mean? They never have to see you.
Wow.
They could blow you out of the water. That's how good they were.
That was a question I had, because there was an arms race going on, because the Germans
When
and the Japanese were building bigger and bigger warships. And
Oh Lord, yeah.
Can you talk about what it was like being in the
If you ever went aboard one of them super battleships, it's actually unbelievable. No kidding. They are that big.
I've read that they pushed the sides in the Panama Canal.
They had size.
The sides in the Panama Canal, they can barely fit through.
You said they're so big they can barely fit through the Panama Canal. Is that true?
They couldn't go through the Panama Canal.
Okay.
Had to go around the Horn.
Okay,
We never went through the Panama Canal because we were too big.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. Because you could stand on them super jobs. You could go up and look on the starboard side of the ship and see a mound that went over like a mound. Look over the top of that thing, don't see the other side. That's how wide they were. They were really, really huge. No kidding.
About how many of you were on your boat?
Ma'am,
About how many of you would fit on a ship?
how many?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, that battleship I was on, my billet number was 2013. So I would say it's getting pretty close to 3,000, because it took 109. I think it was 190 men or 90 men to man one of those turrets. It took that many guys. So in the first, they had 6 deck divisions that manned the guns, the big guns down there when you had a conflict.
Now, some of those guns could shoot 25, 30 miles, right?
Yep. I would say it would be getting pretty close to 3,000. Yeah. It's you can't. This thing's numbers sort of skip. They don't jive up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They never told you too much. You never have too much.
So when you weren't training people and doing these other things, what did your day look like? What was it like spending all that time on a ship with thousands of other people?
Other people?
Yeah, what was it like with all these others on a boat?
What was it like?
Yeah, tell the food or the
kinda-
lodging.
It's kind of hard to. It's kind of hard to explain. But one thing that you did, you got along with everybody because you never knew that something would happen that the guys you were talking to, love and Savior. That was one thing that I did learn. Respect the other person, respect the other person's feelings. Yep. But it was a wonderful experience.
It sounds like there was a lot of camaraderie then.
Ma'am?
It sounds like there was a lot of camaraderie then.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was something else. You always try to look out a little bit for the other guy because you never know when you need help.
Mm-hmm. Did you, what did you do with your downtime?
When did you want to get out?
Or when you had free time? What little free time you might have had?
Drink beer. It was in Pearl Harbor when they said the war ended, and I was waiting on a ship. The war had ended, but I'm still in the Navy. We got a lot of beer here. Believe it or not, we're buying Budweiser beer for $2 for a quarter. to get rid of the beer.
I like the sound
Drink
of that.
all you want, but don't get drunk. Budweiser beer now would pay about $8 a bottle for it. If I had to do it again, I think I'd do it again. Yeah.
Were there any other places that you got to go to shore other than?
Ma'am?
Did you go to shore anywhere other than Hawaii, or did you
Hawaii?
Did you get to stop anywhere else and go on land, or were you always on the boat?
In Hawaii?
Other than Hawaii, did you stop anywhere else? Did you stop anywhere else other than Hawaii? Did you get
In Hawaii?
Did you get to leave the ship that wasn't Hawaii?
Yeah.
Where else did you get to
Yeah,
go?
we went ashore. Yeah. Oh yeah.
What other?
They always kept a half a crew on there.
Okay.
There was a port and starboard Liberty. So when port side was ashore, the starboard side stayed aboard ship, and vice versa the next day. And believe it or not, I still have my Liberty card from when I was in the Navy. So how long's the war been over? That's how long I've had that Liberty
Wow.
card. I had it from that old battleship I was on. My Liberty card that you had to show when you left the ship. You showed it when you came back, identification. I still got my ID card that they took my picture in 1941. When I came to Atria, they wanted a picture. So my picture with the other fellows is hanging on the wall down there, and that picture was on my Navy ID card. It was taken in 1941. I look at it, I could hardly believe it was me.
Do you remember back then?
Still got it, kid, yeah.
Do you remember back then being afraid of U-boats?
Were U-boats a concern?
Ma'am?
Were U-boats a concern? The German subs?
I'm not catching you.
Were the German submarines, the U-boats, were they a concern?
Yep.
Was he afraid of them?
I'll tell you, German submarines, I'll tell you that they would come up at night, and you mostly catch them sitting on water charging, but they couldn't charge their batteries when they down below, so they have to surface. So that's when we stood a watch from, well, we was on duty once at seas 4 on and 12 off. 4 on and 12 off. So that's when that's when they would, pop up.
So was it a little unnerving, or was it kind of scary when that happened, or how did that? What was
Is
it
it
like to
scary?
watch that? Yeah.
Yes. I would say yes, yeah. You always had, on the aircraft carriers, scouting plane, planes that went out that carried depth charges,
Okay.
bombs.
Mm-hmm.
They would go out ahead of us, you know. But World War II, I was in the Navy about 3 weeks, was sent right to sea. But to show you how close the Germans were, we went up to Boston Navy Yard, got on this battleship when I first went in, and came back to Norfolk, Virginia. Destroyer escorts were dropping depth charges on a submarine right off of the coast. I'd say in World War II, we were very lucky, no kidding.
I've heard they've even sunk ships down the Gulf of Mexico outside of Mobile.
I'll tell you, they in that Navy base at night, they would have an alert, suspicion something was going on. They run you off the street. The whole base would be inside. Yep. I'd still say repeat. We were very lucky. No kidding. The same way with the Japanese people. If it would have been a case of technology, if the Japs would have had what we got today, we'd be working for the Japanese people to just, no kidding. And we are lucky. We are lucky.
So even back then, you knew there was an arms race going on. Your enemies were building stronger forces.
So even back then, you could tell that the other side were building up their forces a lot while you were serving. You could
Yep.
kind of see that.
Well, sometimes you sit back and wonder, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Was it worth it? You had to do something. It just seemed as though today I just can't figure it out. I mean, I'm 97 years old, but I still can't figure out today why people cannot get along. In other countries, that's the same way of watching television. They're your enemy one day, and your friends the next. I don't quite. Either you got an enemy or you got a friend. It just shouldn't be the way it's going now. It's kind of hard to figure it out, you know. It's kind of hard to take because you're in the dither all the time. You don't know what's going to come. It's just the same way with this country. You never know what the dickens is going to happen. You don't know what's going on. You don't know who your friend is. You don't know who your enemy is. Now these days down there, you're not even safe in your own home. I think it's bad, really bad.
How did you get communication on the boat to find out what was going on in other places? Did you guys hear very often what was going on in the wider scheme of things?
Everything was kept kind of quiet. Even after the war, at times you take off, you never knew. You hear scuttlebutt, you know, hear rumors going here and going there and what have you. But I would definitely say sometimes you just don't get the big, you just don't get the pictures. All you hear is rumors and rumors and rumors, yeah.
Did that make it harder or easier, or did it factor in very much?
I would did make it harder, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. But one thing, in the Navy, you're always practicing for war. That's why you're in there. One thing I'll say, we really got some wonderful equipment these days. I wouldn't want to tackle with the United States, I'll tell you that. No way. During World War II, there was more than one ship I was on shot down more Japanese planes at night than they did during the daytime. Radar, take it. Wonderful, wonderful.
Let's see.
Yep,
Did you get to hear from home very often?
ma'am?
Did you get to hear from home very often? Did you get letters or any communication with your family?
Well, it all depends on how long you were gone. Because if your parents try to get in touch, they were always able to write, but you never know how long you would be out to get your mail. That was one thing, and the guys were always looking for mail. You know what I mean? Always looking for news of what's going on at home. So the old battleship down there, when you first go in the Navy, they ride you pretty good, tell you stories and do this and do that. So you always used to have the story. You got the mail boy watching, here you are out in the middle of the ocean somewhere. What am I supposed to do? Well, stand up in the front up there and look for the mail boy. Here you are out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. He's putting you on, having fun with you. Look for the mail boy. This guy's up there looking. But we couldn't communicate from the ship to home. They pretty well censored everything that you would try to tell mom or try to tell papa. Read your mail before it was sent home. You know what I mean?
All the fun stuff got redacted.
Huh?
All the fun stuff gets redacted.
Where have you been? That's where you go home and mom, pop. Where have you been? Where have you been? Like you've been to Coney Island or something like that. I can't say. I can't say nothing.
Did they have lots of questions for you then when you got home? Did they have lots of questions for you when you got home to find out what you were up to?
Yeah. They sure did. But you can, just like I say, what was it? A slip of the lip and sink a ship.
Right.
So you didn't even communicate with your own family. You know what I mean? Because you it's just one of those things you just don't say too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All we knew we were there where we were going. You never knew until you got there.
Was there what place were you most surprised to arrive at if you didn't know where you were headed?
Huh?
Were there any places you were surprised to arrive at if they didn't tell you where you were headed?
Surprise?
Yeah, were you like, oh, I didn't know we were going to be here? Were there any places that really surprised you that you were sent on the ship?
Yes and no. Well, like one time, we were headed out. The word got out that was going to Shanghai, China. So it's just stuff that's like That's like living in Atria here. You hear, you hear this and you hear that, and what words, scuttlebutt. I mean, it's stuff that never happened. But somewhere along the line, it's kept up here. It's kept up here, and then maybe a year or so like that, you know. You find this out and find that out. So we fooled around Honolulu down there, said it's going to go to Shanghai, China. I forget how many months it'd been that we'd have heard it was going to China. So the day that we headed, the day we headed out for Shanghai, China, we got word, turned around, and go back to Honolulu. What the hell's going on? You know, what's going on here?
Yeah.
You know, we're going back right when we what we doing? Traveling around in circles. So here we picked up a bunch of airmen that hadn't been home for about 3 years for Christmas. We wound up coming back to the States. We don't come back to the States. Got in Long Beach, California, and stayed there for quite a while. I stayed there in Long Beach, California, until I got out. Yeah. But you go on goodwill cruises, and you do this, and do that.
What was the atmosphere like when you were headed toward Long Beach versus when they thought you were heading out to Shanghai? How did everybody feel about that when they turned around and found that out?
All you heard was one hoop-de-doo, no kidding. Hoop-de-doo, hey, hey, hey. It was really an experience. So them guys were happy as the devil. But they worked at day, and we worked at day, and they slept. The visitors slept during the day. So then they would work at night, and we would sleep on our own bunk at nighttime. But that rotated.
So you had to switch bunks out?
Ma'am?
You switched bunks out, you had to share, and
Yeah.
oh.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It was the funny thing, I came back to San Francisco. My brother was in the Army. And I just came back from Germany. Of all the places he wound up, it was in San Francisco, the same place we were at. My brother's on a troop ship 2 docks away from where I was at. I hadn't seen my brother in about two, three years.
Wow.
I said, where did you land when you come back from Tracy? He says, Frisco. You know, what dock and so forth, you know. Where we were over there, about two docks away, never knew it. Never knew it. It's just kind of hard to figure out at times.
Sure.
Really, really hard. Yep. But I guess if I had to do it again, I'd do it.
Do you have any other memories during the war that have really stuck with you, or that were really vivid, or that you'd like to share that we've not talked about?
That what now?
Do you have any other very specific memories or incidents that happened during the war that you'd like to talk
Does it
about?
stay with you?
Or, yeah, is there any, like a specific incident or something you
think
remember
so.
you'd like to share?
Oh, yeah. You don't, my honest opinion, you don't forget it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, you just don't, as much as I hate to say, there's 365 days in a year, right? 365 days a year, believe it or not, I'm still in the Navy, yeah. You just don't forget it. That's why you see a lot of these people running around today. It's not their fault. It's reflections and feedback from when they were over there.
So Kara asked me if there's a time that he
Sure.
remembers when he learned that war is dangerous and war is serious business. Was there a moment?
Okay.
You know, it's a funny thing with this war thing. We got a gentleman in here who was in the Army. Okay, I'm of Italian descent. So this man is telling us, I was in the Army. Well, where was that in the Army? Well, he was wound up being in Italy. Now, to show you how things turn. What you doing there? Well, I was a demolition expert. What'd you do? Oh, I blow up bridges. But the funny thing about this, the man was doing his job, you know what I mean? But I had relation in Italy. To show you what war can do for people, it's really hard to take. I know you were in Italy, and it sort of got to me, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But I guess it's fate's the only thing I can figure out. But we're still in a wonderful country, I think. I think people should be more concerned with the United States. Hope to never have to go to another war. But you gotta be on your toes. Yep.
How do you feel like your service impacted or changed you?
Ma'am?
Is there a way that you feel like your service changed who you were or impacted who you are in a specific way?
My service?
Mm-hmm.
Was it worth the time?
No, do you feel like it changed you in any way?
How do I feel about that?
Do you feel that it changed you in any way? Do you feel like when you went in, it was different than when you came back out?
I didn't feel bad about it, no.
Okay.
No. I just like to say it. If they was to say, and I was debated to say, would you do it again? I'd fight for my country. You better believe it. Better believe it. Yeah. Yep.
So, what did you think when you found out you were finished? When did you were you involved up until the war ended, or when did you find out your last day of service was?
Where did it sign up?
Or when did you find out you were leaving or your service was ending?
Leaving the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
1946.
So you were on even after everything was over then?
They, 1946, they put out an all-nail
Mm-hmm.
that if you had enough points, that if they could do without you, they'd let you go back home. But when you went out, you still would either register with the draft board or
Okay.
go into the reserves.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in the reserves. I stayed in the reserves till Korean War, and I got a call to go back in the Navy, come back, but left it up to me. I was married at the time and I had a couple of children. If you want to come back, we'll still take care of you. But I had the chance to get out of the reserves,
Mm-hmm.
so that was it.
When you were in the reserves, did you have to go to more training regularly, or what kind of things did you have to do?
If you're in the active reserves, you're compelled to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Inactive, you could request it.
Okay.
It's a funny thing. After I got out of the Navy, you start working. I was working down the Newport Aquarium. They had found out that I was on the landing ship.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to go aboard this ship It was an LST. There's only one of them that's still going yet.
Okay.
I seen that ship, I went bananas, no kidding. But I worked on it down there, talking about this, talking about guns, you know. So for a week, I really enjoyed it. I keep repeating myself. It's there. You don't you don't forget it.
Sure.
You don't forget it. Yep.
So what was it like when you finally got to go home, see your family and all that? Or did you go straight into work afterward? Or I know you mentioned you were in the reserves, but did you work as well, I would guess?
I went to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because what you get down, the money you get, it's nothing. You know, I wasn't getting no money. I wasn't getting no pay. I was inactive. I guess if I wouldn't have had the two boys, that, you know, I'd probably been back in there. They make it worth your while. Yeah.
Did your training and experience help you get a job when you came back, or did anything you learned kind of turn into your career?
World War II, well, I can stand corrected. But if you work for a company and they drafted you or you went into service,
Mm-hmm.
they are compelled to give you a job when you come back. I was working to be a good retired rubber company.
So you went back to the same job?
My job was, they offered me a job no sooner than I come home. Yeah.
Did they give you a promotion?
No, I don't think so.
Oh.
I wound up going to communications when I got out of the Navy.
Okay.
Worked for a telephone company.
How long did you work for the telephone company?
Yeah. 35 years.
Wow. Did you retire from the telephone company?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I did. Yep.
So you said you had 2 sons, is that right?
Ma'am?
You said you had 2 sons, is that right?
Salary?
Did you say you had 2 sons, your family? You started a family and once you got out and back to Newport?
Yeah. Well, they left it up to you if you wanted to come back, fine. So they told me if they didn't hear from me, consider myself out of the reserve. I never did get a discharge from the reserves. All it was word of mouth, and never got really nothing on paper. Yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share about your experience or any other things in life after you finished with your service or otherwise?
All I can say is President Trump always says, God bless America. People should try to, I really think people should try to get along better than what they do. This cutthroat stuff, it's lies and stuff like that. It's no good for you. It's no good for the country, and it's no good for nobody. My motto is, tell it like it is.
Well, I think you've done that for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your service.
I apologize.
Oh, no worries. Not at all.
Yeah. I generally shy away from stuff like this due to the fact.
We appreciate your time, and thank you for being patient.
You're quite
I'm losing
welcome.
my voice.
It's been a pleasure.